No, Marcus, I'm not here to sign anything to save you. I held up the keys, letting them jingle right in his face. I'm here because this house belongs to me again, and you've got 30 days to get out. My son's mouth just hung open. My daughter-in-law dropped the stack of past due bills she was clutching. Behind them, the sheriff shifted his weight, waiting for my signal. 2 years ago, they used my paid-off house as collateral, lied to my face, and dumped me in a roach-infested room like yesterday's trash. Today, in the same living room they kicked me out of, I was the one holding the deed. Folks in Cedar Hill, Georgia used to call my place Miss Lillian's porch. It wasn't fancy. One-story brick, peeling white trim, creaky swing out front. But that little bungalow was paid off, and it held 40 years of memories. My late husband, Earl, painted that porch himself. I could still see him there every fall Sunday, yelling at the Falcons and cussing out the refs under his breath. By the time Earl passed, it was just me, my roses out front, and my Social Security check. That house is my security blanket. No mortgage, low taxes, quiet street. I thought I'd die in that living room under that ugly ceiling fan we always meant to replace. My son had other plans. Marcus was my only child. Smart as a whip. Big smile, always talking. Growing up, we were a team. When Earl's heart gave out, Marcus promised me, "Mama, I got you. You'll never have to worry as long as I'm around." At first, he kept that promise. He'd swing by every Sunday after church with his wife, Jenna, and their little boy, Cody. We eat fried chicken and talk about football and gas prices. I'd slip Cody $20 here, $20 there for snacks, even though I knew it went straight to video games. But after Marcus got promoted at the logistics company and Jenna started posting those Boss Babe quotes on Instagram, something in the air shifted. Suddenly, my old house with the mismatched furniture and the Walmart curtains wasn't cute anymore. It was potential. One Tuesday afternoon, Marcus showed up in his press shirt and shoddy loafers, smelling like cologne and stress. "Mama, you got a minute?" he asked, already walking in. "I always got a minute for you, baby," I said, turning down the TV. "What's wrong? You look like a man with a problem." He laughed too loud. "Nothing's wrong, Ma. Opportunity. Big opportunity." Jenna followed behind him, heels quickened on my worn hardwoods. She gave me that tight smile she saved for times she wanted something. They sat at my kitchen table like a sales team. "Mama," Marcus started, pulling out a folder. "You know how I've been talking about starting my own trucking company? Well, my buddy Darnell and I finally got a line on a contract hauling for a big grocery chain. We just need 3 rigs to start. Bank is willing to give us the loan." I nodded, not understanding yet why I had a bad feeling in my stomach. "That's good, baby," I said. "I'm proud of you." "Yeah, well," he glanced at Jenna. She touched his arm like a cue. "The bank needs collateral, real estate, something with equity." I felt that cold little warning bell ring in the back of my mind. "Marcus," I said slowly, "you got that house you and Jenna bought?" He winced. "Marcus, down, Mama. We're underwater on it. The house isn't worth what we own. But your place, this house is clear, free and clear. You sitting on gold, Mama. It's done to let it just sit." Jenna leans in, voice syrupy. "We're not saying sell it, Miss Lillian. Lord, no. Just a small lien on the title for a little while. Once the business cycle off, we refinance, clear it, and your name's right there where it belongs. You won't even feel a thing. I stared at that folder. Those printed numbers meant nothing to me, but the words deed of trust jumped off the page like a smack. I don't like the sound of that. I said, this house is all I got. Marcus groaned, rubbing his forehead. Why, you raised me better than to think I'd let something happen to you. This is how people level up. We can finally get you that new kitchen, remember? No more busted stove with one working burner. My stove works just fine, I muttered. He turned up the guilt like only your own child can do. I'm trying to build something for Cody, Mama. Generational wealth. You always said I didn't want me to break my back in some warehouse until I die. This is our shot. And the only reason it might slip away is because you won't sign a few papers. That stung. He knew it would. I wish I could tell you I stood firm. I wish I could say I told him to take his generational wealth and leave my porch. But I didn't. I thought, he's my boy. He loved me. He wouldn't risk my home. So 2 days later, I put on my good church dress and rode with them downtown to the bank. The loan officer slid papers toward me. Marcus and Jenna smiled like those little realtor photos you see on bus benches. Just sign here and here, Miss Harris, the woman said. My hand shook as I signed away the thing Earl and I had worked 30 years to own. I told myself it was temporary. I told myself I was helping my son the way he'd helped me when Earl died. I had no idea that pen stroke was the start of my eviction from my own life.
For the first few months, everything seemed okay. Trucks rolled in. Marcus posted pictures with shiny 18-wheelers and hashtags like Black-owned business and hustle hard. Jenna quit her office job to handle the branding and admin, which mostly looked like her yelling at people over Bluetooth. I stayed out of it. I cooked Sunday dinners, babysat Cody when they had networking events, and prayed their big dreams didn't crush them or me. Then the little cracks started showing. Marcus stopped staying for dessert. He answered calls at the table, pacing in my yard, barking into his phone. Jenna's Instagram changed from boss babe to inspirational posts about battling through setbacks and people not believing in your vision. One night, around midnight, I woke up to pounding on my door. It was Marcus, eyes wild and smelling like a sweat and diesel. Mama, you got any cash? He asked without hello. Baby, it's midnight. What do you need cash for? Driver quit last minute. I had to cover his fuel. Darnell's truck broke down to Alabama. I just need $500 till next week. My Social Security check had just hit that day. After light bill, water, and medicine, I had $370 left in my account. I gave him $300. Told myself it was just this one time. It wasn't. The notices started coming 3 months later. At first, they were just those long white envelopes from the bank that I wasn't allowed to open because Marcus is handling it, Mama. Then one day, while Jenna and Marcus were at a meeting, Cody handed me a stack of mail he grabbed from their townhouse by mistake. Mom said to drop these off. He shrugged, going back to his phone. Right on top was a red stamped envelope with my name on it. And URGENT, notice of default, in big letters. My old heart stuttered.
I sat down at the kitchen table, slipped a butter knife under the flat, and read the words and made my stomach flip. You are in default of your mortgage. The lender may foreclose on the property. Mortgage on my paid-off house. I waited till church was over that Sunday so I wouldn't embarrass him in front of folks. As soon as we got home, I rounded on Marcus. What is this? I slapped a letter on the table. His face went flat. Where'd you get that? Don't worry about where I got it. Why is the bank talking about foreclosing on my house? Jenna jumped in, talking fast. Miss Lillian, it's just a form letter. The bank does this anytime you're a little behind. A little behind? My voice went up higher than I meant. How behind are you? Marcus sighed, staring at the floor. A couple payments, maybe three. Mama, calm down. It's business. Cash flow goes up and down. We're waiting on big invoice to clear. I felt something snapped. Don't you cash flow me, boy. That paper got my name on it and my address on it. You told me I wouldn't feel a thing. I'm feeling it. There was a long, ugly silence. Cody's video game beeped in the living room. Marcus finally muttered, We're working on it. They weren't. 2 months later, a man in a suit and the county deputy knocked on my front door at 8 a.m. while I was still in my bathrobe. Ma'am, are you Lillian Horace? Yes. He handed me a thick packet. This is your official notice. The property will be sold at the courthouse steps in 90 days if the amount due is not cured. Sold? My voice broke on that word. I got Marcus so fast nothing is shook. He didn't answer that day, or that night, or the next. 3 days later, he finally showed up with Jenna. No Cody. Her eyes were puffy like she'd been crying. His jaw was tight and angry. Mama, sit down, he said. No, I'd rather stand. He paced my living room. The living room he grew up in like he was in somebody else's house. Business went bad, he said. Fuel prices, clients backing out. Darnell schooled me over. I tried. All right, I tried. The bank don't care. They taking the trucks. They taking the house. I can't stop it. You used my house, Marcus. My teeth chattered. I was so mad. You promised. I know what I promised. Look, Jenna thought it seems complex over in Riverdale. It's not fancy, but it's clean. They got shuttles, Walmart, and the clinic. We'll get you moved out before the auction so you don't gotta deal with any of this mess. You're moving me out? Jenna sat down close, her voice soft with that edge. Miss Lillian, it's just a small one-bedroom. You'll love it. They got bingo nights at everything. And once we get back on our feet, we'll get you something nicer. Right, Marcus? He nodded without looking at me. That was the day I realized they weren't trying to save my home. They were trying to get me out of the way.
2 weeks later, I watched strangers carry my life out in boxes. Marcus had rented a U-Haul and hired a couple of his buddies to move the things. They were in a hurry. They wrapped nothing. My wedding picture with Earl got tossed on top of a crate of dishes. My mama's quilt got shoved into a trash bag. I stood there on that porch, clutching my purse like a life raft, and Cody wouldn't even look at me. He sat in the truck, headphones on. When everything was loaded, Marcus came up the steps. We gotta go, Mom. Lease at the new place starts today.
Can't we at least stay until the auction? I asked. Say goodbye proper? The bank can lock it down any day. We can't risk it. He kissed my forehead like he was doing me a favor. We drove 30 minutes out to a Riverdale Oaks senior living, which sounded nice on the brochure. Up close, it wasn't. Peeling paint, smell of cigarette smoke in the hallways, a broken elevator with a handwritten sign, out of order, use stairs. They gave me room 12B. It was technically an efficiency, but felt more like a motel. One small window facing a parking lot, a kitchenette with 2 burners, a fridge that hummed too loud, and a bathroom where the fan didn't work. Marcus and Jenna unloaded my 3 boxes in 2 trash bags. We'll be back this weekend to bring the rest and check on you. They never came back that weekend or the next. I watched my house go up for auction on a live stream the county posted online because I couldn't bear to go in person. Some investor in a baseball cap bought it for more money than I'd ever seen on one screen. The first night in 12B, the couple next door had the TV blasting some crime show till 3 a.m. Somebody yelled in the hallway. Somebody else laughed. Sirens wailed in the distance. I sat on that hard little twin bed and cried into my pillow so nobody could hear. I was 69 years old, and for the first time since I left my mama's house at 17, I didn't have a home. Just a room with thin walls and a view of a dumpster.
If this were a fairy tale, someone would have come and rescued me right away. Cedar Hill wasn't a fairy tale, but God has a way of sending the right people at the most random times. 2 days after I moved in, I was sitting in the common room pretending to read, mostly just staring at the fake plant in the corner, when a voice said, "You look like somebody who knows how to fry chicken." I looked up. An older woman with a head full of silver curls and a walker decorated with dollar store flowers was smiling at me. "My name's Ida Mae, baby. You new here?" "Yes, ma'am. Lillian." She sat right down without asking. "Lillian, I'm going to be real with you. Every time I see a new face in this place, they got the same look you got right now." She tapped her chest. "That how the hell did I end up here face?" Despite myself, I snorted. "Am I that obvious?" "Only the folk who mourn it." She patted my hand. "So what's the story, Miss Lillian? Kids dump you here?" The truth burst out of me like a pop balloon. I told her about the loan, the trucks, the foreclosure, the tiny room. I expected pity. Instead, Ida snorted so hard she almost choked. "Girl, join the club," she said once she got a breath. "My oldest sold my house to pay off his gambling debts and told me it fell out of escrow. Thought I was born yesterday. Let me tell you something. These kids out here ain't built like we were. They don't care whose back they stand on long as they get a selfie out of it." Her words hurt and comforted me at the same time. I feel like I failed, like I raised him wrong. Ida shook her head. "You raised him with what you knew at the time. He made grown man choices. That ain't on you." She squinted at me. "You still able to stand on your own 2 feet? Heart beating, hands working? Last time I checked. Then you got something most folks don't. You still got a chance to flip the script." Ida Mae was the first one to drag me out of my room. She introduced me to Tendisha, the extra overworked activities director, and Mr. Noam, who ran the little store in another. She took me to bingo, to Bible study, to the bus stop for the senior shuttle.
One day, Miss Janina was complaining in the lobby. "Potluck this Friday," he said, waving the flyer. "Nobody signed up for man dinch. Only desserts. All folks only want sugar." I'd a nudge me. "Miss Lillian here can cook. I smelled our collard greens in the hallway yesterday." I blinked. It was just a little pot side. Nothing special. "What do you know how to make?" Mr. Newton asked hopefully. "Fried chicken, mac and cheese, sweet potato pies, nothing fancy." He slapped the counter. "That exactly what they want. I pay you small stipend. You cook, we sell plates. You keep half the profit. Good?" I hadn't worked in years. My back hurt on rainy days. My knees creaked on upstairs. But something inside me woke up. "Yes, sir," I said. "Let's try it." That Friday, I stood in the tiny community kitchen of Riverdale Oaks, flour dust in the air, grease popping with gospel radio playing low. The smells took me right back to my old kitchen on Cedar Hill before my son turned it into a loan document. We sold out in 45 minutes. "Miss Lillian, these folks about to have you on Food Network." I'd laugh, licking our fingers. We started doing it every other Friday. Then, every Friday, Mr. Nguyen printed little signs. "Lillian's Home Kitchen, plate sale Fridays." The extra cash wasn't huge. $80 here, $100 there. But for the first time since I lost my house, I wasn't just surviving. I was contributing. I was needed. And with every plate I handed across that plastic table, some of the shame slipped off my shoulders.
6 months into my potluck hustle, I met Mr. Leo. He was a skinny man in his 70s with a Vietnam veteran hat and a shopping cart full of folders. He'd show up at the lobby store, buy a black coffee, and spread his papers out on the table like a professor. "What you always working on?" I finally asked. He grinned, showing a gold tooth. "Property taxes and people's stupidity." I frowned. "Excuse me?" He laughed. "Name's Leo. I buy tax liens at the county courthouse. Folks don't pay their property taxes. County sells their debt. If they still don't pay after a while, I can take the house. Legal robbery if you ask me." He shrugged. "Grew up poor as dirt. System never did me any favors. Now I learned the system and use it right back." The words "take the house" made my stomach clench. That's rough," I said. "Ma'am, the banks, hedge funds, and rich folks been doing it forever," he said. "Difference is when I get a place, I either fix it and rent it cheap or I sell to somebody who will live in it. I ain't out here drawing grandmas on the street." I almost told him my story right then. Instead, I asked, "You mean those auctions down at the courthouse?" "Yup." He sipped his coffee. "Most folks don't even know property taxes can take their home. One bad year, next thing you know, they're on a list." Over the next few weeks, I found myself drifting to Leo's table more and more. He'd show me spreadsheets and explain in simple words. "This column is the address. This one's how much they owe. This one is the assessed value. You gotta look for the gap. Places worth a lot more than what they owe in taxes." I shook my head. "I can barely read these forms. I'm a lot of number person." He chopped the table with his pen. "Miss Lillian, you learned every price in the grocery store down to the penny, raising that boy yours. Don't tell me you can't learn this too." Ida chimed in from her chair. "He's right, girl. You ain't dead yet. Use that brain." So I did. Leo took me to the courthouse one Tuesday to watch. We sat in the back while men and women in business casual clothes raised paddles like they were bidding on Carol.
The auctioneer rattled off parcel numbers, minimum bids, redemption periods. It sounded like another language, but I caught pieces. Opening bid, $800, going once, going twice. 2 years of back taxes. Buyer gets lien, all it can redeem if they pay up plus interest. Leo leaned over. See that one that just went for $900? That little shotgun house is worth and be 70 grand. If the owner don't pay their taxes in 2 years, that investor will own it free and clear for pennies. My brain was spinning. You made there are people who could lose their house over a couple $1,000s in taxes? Exactly, he said. Whole system is built to squeeze folks who don't know that. That's why I try to buy smart and fair, and why you should too. Me? He shrugged. You got hustle. You got sense. You're already running a food business. You want to get your power back? Own dirt. Ain't nothing like being the one with the deed. The idea lodged in my chest like a seed. My son had used my house as collateral and lost it. What if I learned this system well enough to never let that happen again? What if I owned property again? Something no one could sign away without me. I started saving harder. No more impulse snacks, no more new shoes, even when my old ones hurt. Half my plate sale profits went into a little savings account at the credit union. Every Friday night, instead of watching game shows, I'd sit at the kitchen table with Leo's notes circled in addresses, writing questions. Sometimes he'd ride the bus past properties on the list just to look. One evening, as the bus rattled past some faded gray blue bungalow with an overgrown yard, my breath caught. Stop, I whispered. Leo looked at me. You all right? That's like my old street, I said. He pointed to his list at the mailbox number. Cedar Hill Drive. Yep, that one's up next month. Only 2 years behind on property taxes. My heart pounded louder I could hear it over the bus engine. The house wasn't mine anymore. The investor would grab it at the foreclosure auction, had flipped it cheap. Some other family had moved in. Then times got harder and they stopped paying. Now the county was coming for it again. Let's go, I told Leo, my voice shaky. After we rode past, I saw toys in the yard, a bike on its side, curtains in the windows that weren't mine. But the bones of Alec were still there. Earl's porch railings, the maple tree we planted when Marcus was born. I stared until we turned the corner. Rio, I said slowly, what would it take to bid on that one?
From that moment on, everything became about one date. The day my old house would go up for tax sale. I met with the woman at the pro bono legal clinic Ida told me about, attorney Renee Carter, mid-30s, sharp bob, sharper eyes. So, she said, flipping through my papers, you want to buy a tax lien on the house your son lost. Yes, ma'am. Not to get revenge on whoever lives there now. I thought of the toys in the yard. No, ma'am. They didn't do anything to me. But I'd like a chance to own that house again. Or at least have the choice. Renee nodded slowly. Legally, it's late. Emotionally? She smiled. That's between you and your therapist. I can't afford no therapist, I muttered. She laughed. Fair enough. Here's the situation. Open bid will be the back taxes plus fees. Looks like around $18,000. You'll need cash or a cashier's check that day. If you win, you get the link. Current owners then have a redemption period. Here it's 1 year.
If they pay back the taxes plus interest, you get your money back plus a good chunk of interest. If they don't, you can move to take the deed. My savings account had $9,300 in it, my entire net worth. I don't have a $18,000, I said quietly. Renee tapped her pen on the desk. But maybe we can find somebody to partner with you. That's how I ended up having coffee with Leo and Renee at the same time. Look, Leo said, sliding his yellow legal pad between us. I can put up $9,000 to match yours. We go 50-50 on the land. You're the decision maker. If the owners redeemed, we split the interest. If not, and you get the deed and decide to move in, we work out a fair buy-out on my half over time. I don't want charity, I said. It ain't charity, it's a business, and a good story to tell at bingo. We shook on it. The week before the auction, I barely slept. What if some big money investor swooped in and outbid us? What if the owners paid at the last second and got pulled from the sale? What if this was God giving me a second chance or testing me? Auction day, the courthouse steps felt just like Leo had described. Cold stone, hot tempers, bad coffee. Leo handed me the bit of pattern. This your fight, he said. You raise it. My palms were sweaty, I could barely hold it. When they called the parcel number for 123 Cedar Hill Drive, my knees got weak. I forced myself to stand straighter. Opening bid $18,000, the auctioneer droned. Do I hear 18? My arm shot up before my brain caught up. Bidder number 42, the clerk called out. 18.5, the auctioneer asked, scanning the crowd. A man in a navy blaze raised his paddle. 18.5. My heart dropped. 19, the auctioneer said. I looked at Leo. He nodded slow. 19, I heard myself say, paddle trembling. Blazer got raised again. 19.5. My whole body started to shake. That was basically our sailing. If I went higher, I'd have nothing left for emergency repairs or legal fees. Leo leaned close. You sure about this, Miss Lillian? You don't have to win this one to win at life. I thought about Earl painting that porch, about Marcus running laps in the front yard, about me sitting on the curb outside with my suitcases years ago. I'm sure, I said and whispered. 20,000, I said louder. A little murmur rinkled through the group. Blazer got proud, looking through his packet. Maybe he saw something he didn't like over that woman runs out of the town. Do I hit 25? The auctioneer asked. Silence. 20,000 and going once, going twice. I squeezed that pedal so hard my knuckles turned white. Sold to bidder number 42 for $20,000. Leo whooped so loud he scared the pitches off the statue. Renee, watching from the top of the steps, clapped. I just stood there, letting it sink in. I didn't have my house back yet. The current resident still had a whole year to pay 30 taxes and keep it. But for the first time since Marcus had walked me into that bank, the papers with my name on them meant something good. I had a stake, a claim, a piece of my life back.
That redemption year felt longer than all of my 70s. Every 3 months, the county would send an update. Still unpaid, still delinquent. I'd walk past the house sometimes on my way back from the bus stop. The family living there, a young Latina couple with 2 little girls, had planted flowers where my azaleas used to be.
They put up Christmas lights in December, pumpkins in October. One day, I saw the wife sweeping the porch. I almost walked right by. Then I stopped. "Excuse me, baby," I said. "This might sound strange, but is everything all right with y'all's property taxes?" Her eyes widened. "Oh, Senora, we try it," she said. "My husband, he work construction, but winter slow. We behind, and we got a letter that someone borrowed the lien." She looked scared. You from the county?" I took a deep breath. This was that moment. Revenge or something better. "No, honey," I said. "I'm not from the county. I'm the one who bought it." Her face crumpled. I rushed to explain. "Listen to me now. I'm not here to throw anybody out. You understand? You got until next June to pay those taxes. If you can do it, plus the interest, the house is yours forever, and I'll walk away with my little profit and be happy. If you can't, we'll talk then. But either way, nobody's banging on your door tonight." She started crying right there on my old porch. I cried too. Over the next months, we became something like friends. Her name was Elena. Her husband was Jorge. They'd bought the house from the investor guy on a rent-to-own contract that was shady as hell. Renee looked at the paperwork and hissed through her teeth. She took advantage of them, she said. But the tax lien process is still the tax lien process. I could have pushed. I could have made the maids. Instead, I did what I wish someone had done for me. I gave them information and time. I told them at their kitchen table one evening, "You got two choices. Scramble and pay this off, except that in June, the county's going to give me the option to take the deed. If that happens, I'll promise I'll treat y'all better than the last guy. We'll figure something out. Maybe you stay as renters, but you need to talk to a lawyer either way." Elena squeezed my hand. She whispered, "Why you being so nice?" "Because I remember what it feels like to have everything whipped away and no one in your corner," I thought. Out loud, I said, "Because y'all didn't hurt me. My son did." In the end, they couldn't come up with a full amount. Price everything went up. Jorge got hurt on a job site and missed work. When the redemption deadline passed and the county issued the deed in my name, Elena and Jorge showed up at Riverdale Oaks with a pan of arroz con pollo and tears in their eyes. "We will move out in 60 days, Elena said. "You don't have to give us that, but we ask." I gave them 90. "And if you need a reference for your next place, you put my number down." They hugged me so tight I could hardly breathe. When they left, I shook her head. "You're a better woman than me," she muttered. "I'd have moved there with my feet on the coffee table that same day." Maybe. But I'd learned something in those 2 years. The system already chews up poor folks. Me adding teeth to it wasn't going to heal what Marcus did. Owning that house with my name on the deed again was the justice. What I did with that power would decide who I was.
3 months after Elena's family moved out, I stood in the living room of 123 Cedar Hill Drive again. The carpet was different, but the smell was the same. Old wood, a little dust, a hint of lemon cleaner. Renee had helped me hire a contractor for the serious stuff, roof patching, wiring, plumbing.
Leo had claimed the attic for himself, saying he'd help paint and mostly just telling stories while he supervised. The second bedroom became my office. The front porch got a fresh coat of white paint, just like Earl used to like it. I could have easily moved in and shut the door on the past, but life had one more twist queued up. It showed up in the form of a knock on the door one humid August afternoon. I opened it and froze. Marcus! He looked different, thinner, beard patchy, eyes red-shot. Jana stood behind him, arms crossed, a stack of papers clutched to her chest. "Mama," he said, voice hoarse, we need to talk." My first instinct was to slam the door. Instead, I stepped onto the porch and pulled it halfway closed behind me like a shield. "What do you want, Marcus?" I asked. He swallowed hard. Our landlord, he stopped paying his property taxes. The county auctioned off the house last month. We thought some investment company bought it. Then we got this. He held out a letter with my name on it at the top. "Lillian Harris, new owner." Our landlord said we got 30 days. His voice cracked. "We were hoping we could talk to whoever bought it, ask for more time, maybe work something out." I let that sink in. The house they were talking about wasn't this one. It was their townhouse across town. The place they bought when times were good. The place they moved into after dumping me in Riverdale Oaks. "I'm listening," I said. Marcus took a breath. "Mama, did you buy our place?" I didn't answer. I just lifted my key ring, let the metal jingle, then held up a small brass key with a little blue tag. "Town Home, Unit 3B. Jana's face went white. Her knees wobbled. She sat down right there on my porch step. I don't understand," Marcus whispered. "Sit," I said, pointing to the other chair. "We're going to have this conversation properly for once." They sat like scolded teenagers. "In 2 years," I started, "you used my house to chase your dream. You didn't listen when I said I was scared. You lied by omission. You hid letters. And when it all went bad, you dumped me in a box by the highway and disappeared." "Mama, no." I held up a hand. "You had your turn. Now it's mine." I told them about Riverdale Oaks, about sleeping with my purse under my pillows 'cause I was scared someone would break in, about Ida Mae and Mr. Nguyen and those first Friday plate sales, about Dio and Paxlene's and how I'd learned the system that chewed me up. I watched their faces change as they realized I had built a whole life without them. "I bought my old house back," I said finally, tapping the porch beneath my feet. "And when your landlord's property went up for tax sale this spring, I bought that too." Jana whispered, "So you own our town home now?" "That's right." Marcus buried his face in his hands. For the first time, he didn't look slick or in control. He just looked like a tired, scared man who'd made too many bad bets. "You can throw us out?" he asked, voice muffled. I thought about that night on my sidewalk of Earl's voice in my ear, telling me to stand up straight, of Elena and Jorge handing me a rise con Pologna with shaking hands. "I'm not the bank," I said slowly. But I'm not a doormat either. They looked up. You got 30 days, like the letter says. I'm honoring that. After that, you're not going to be living in that townhouse anymore. Jonna started crying. We got nowhere to go. Cody's school is right there. My mom's in assisted living. I'm not finished. They went quiet. You're not going to be living there because I'm selling it. I'm cashing that in to pay off the rest of the debt on this house, fix my porch, and give myself the retirement Marcus Trucking never gave me. Marcus winced at the words. But I'm not leaving you on the street. You're grown. You're going to rent a basic 2-bedroom apartment like everybody else who falls on hard times and starts over. I talked to a lady at the church who manages some units over on Jonesboro Road. She is willing to overlook your credit mess if you pay first and last month's rent. I handed Jenna an envelope. In there is enough for that deposit and the first month's rent. Cash his check. There's also a card for a job opening at the warehouse my friend nephew runs. Night shift, decent pay, benefits. It ain't CEO money, but it's honest. Marcus stared at the envelope like it was a snake. Why would you help us at all after what we did? Because I have to live with myself, I said simply. Because I don't want to become what you were to me. And because Cody didn't ask for any of this. At his name, Jenna broke into a fresh wave of sobs. But understand this. This help, it's a rope, not a hammock. I'm not moving in with you. I'm not co-signing another thing. I'm not babysitting your bills. You take this, you say thank you, and you go build an honest life. I leaned forward. And if you ever think about asking me to sign anything again, I will slam this door so hard the part shakes. You hear me? Marcus nodded, tears streaming now. Yes, ma'am. As for us, I said, feeling my throat tighten, that's going to take more than one conversation on a porch. You earned my distance. If you want me back in your life one day, you're going to have to show me, not tell me who you've become. That means sobriety if you're drinking, therapy if you need it, and a whole lot of humility. They both nodded like church deacons. Janet clutched the envelope to the chest. Thank you, Miss Lillian. I don't deserve this. No, I agreed. You don't. That's what grace is. I stood up. The sheriff, who'd been waiting politely by his car, raised an eyebrow at me. You still want me to serve that notice now? Yes, sir. I said, they got 30 days, but we've already worked out where they're going. He tipped his hat at me. That's more than most folks get. Marcus stood up, too. Can I at least hug you? He asked, voice small. I thought about it for a long moment. Not today. Maybe someday, when it hurts less. He nodded, accepting that like a sentence. They walked down my point steps slower than they'd ever walked down any steps in their life. At the bottom, Marcus turned. Mama, he called. Yes? I'm proud of you. You turned into the kind of bus I always wanted to be. I didn't answer. I just watched them get in their car and drive away. When they turned the corner, I went inside, closed my front door, and leaned my forehead against the wood. My knees tried to give out. My whole body shook.
I let myself slide down to the floor and cry as hard as I needed to. Not from hate, from relief.
A year later, Cody sat at my kitchen table, taller than me now, picking at a slice of pound cake. "Grandma," he said, "Dad told me everything about the house, about the loan, about how he messed up." "He tell you how he left me in that shoebox room with roaches?" I asked, arching an eyebrow. Cody winced. "Yeah, he told me that part too." I softened. "Your daddy's paying his dues, working nights, going to counseling. He's still got a long road ahead, but at least he's on it." Cody nodded. "He said, if I ever even think about asking you for money when I'm grown, he's going to show me pictures of that room." We both laughed. "You ever want to see it?" I asked. "I think I still got the door key." "No, ma'am," he said quickly. "I'll take your word for it." He grew serious. "Grandma, can you tell me something?" "I can try." "Why didn't you just let us drown? Like you had the power. Why didn't you let the bank take our place and just forget us?" I looked around my kitchen. The sunlight through the window, the vase of fresh flowers from my newest event, the stack of order forms from corporate clients who now paid top dollar for Lillian Southern spread. I looked around my kitchen, the sunlight through the window, the vase of fresh flowers from my newest event, the stack of order forms from corporate clients who now paid top dollar for Lillian Southern spread. Because power without wisdom is just another kind of stupidity, I said slowly. Your daddy had power over me when he got that loan. He used it wrong. I had power over him when I bought his place. I had a choice, to be a mirror or to be better. I tapped the table. Betrayal is when someone uses your love as a weapon against you. Justice is when the scales finally even out. Wisdom is knowing when to stop swinging once you're the one holding the weight. Cody squinted. "So what are you now? Betrayal or justice or wisdom?" I smiled. "Baby, I'm all three. I lived through betrayal. I fought for justice. And now sitting in my own kitchen in my own house that I bought back with my own hands, I get to choose wisdom." I leaned back, letting the porch swing creak in the summer breeze. "I can't promise you I'll always choose grace. I'm still human. Some days I still want to go down to that townhouse and yell. But most nights I sleep just fine, and that to me is better than any revenge." He nodded slowly, absorbing that. "So what are you going to do with all this wisdom?" he asked, smirking a little. "Well, first, I'm going to teach you how to make this pound cake, because DoorDash won't be around forever. Then I'm going to keep stacking my coins, maybe buy one more little place for some old lady whose kids kicked it to the curb like mine did. And I'm going to sit on this porch and watch the world spin, knowing nobody can sign my name but me." I looked straight into the imaginary camera in my mind, the one pointed at me from your phone, your TV, wherever you're listening. And if you're sitting somewhere right now thinking you're too old, too broke, too betrayed to start over, I'm here to tell you you're wrong. As long as you still breathing, you can flip the script. Might take time, might hurt, but you can do it.
Because if a 69-year-old grandma who got kicked out of her own house can come back as the landlord, baby, that is nothing you can do.
That night, after Marcus and Jenna left my porch with that envelope in her hands, I couldn't sleep. I made a cup of chamomile tea, then another, then just gave up and sat in the living room with the lights off, listening to the old house breathe. The refrigerator hummed. A car rolled by every now and then. Somewhere down the block, a dog barked at nothing. My phone buzzed on the coffee table. It was a text from Ida May. Ida, you throw 'em out or hug 'em out? Me, neither. I did the messy middle. Ida, good. That's where the grown-ups live. I smiled in the dark. A few minutes later, she called anyway. Girl, I was about to come drive by and check for police lights, she said. How'd it go? I told her everything. About the envelope, about the warehouse job, about not letting Marcus hug me. So now you own 2 places, your old house and their townhouse. Look at you, little real estate queen. I don't feel like no queen, I said. I feel like somebody who's been through a 12-round fight and lost half her teeth. Sometimes winning still hurts, she said quietly. That don't mean it ain't a win. We were quiet for a moment. Ida, I asked. Yeah, baby? Do you ever stop being mad at your kids, the ones that did you dirty? She sighed. I stopped being mad for a while. Then it sneaks back around like a stray cat. I feed it a little, tell it to go on, and it wanders off again. Maybe one day it'll quit coming. I thought about that. So it never really leaves, I said. No, she answered. But it don't control you anymore either. Big difference. After we hung up, I finally crawled into bed. I didn't sleep much, but at least when the sun came up, I didn't feel like my chest was caving in. I felt lighter. Bruised, but lighter. A month later, after Marcus and Jenna moved into their new apartment across town, Tasha from Riverdale Oaks called me. Miss Lillian, you busy? She asked. Depends, I said. Busy doing what? Busy becoming our unofficial counselor, she said. I got 3 residents in here talking about their kids, trying to get them to sign loans and co-sign for cars. I told them, y'all need to talk to Miss Lillian. I pressed the phone tighter to my ear. You telling my business to people, Tasha? I asked, half joking. I'm telling them you know what you're talking about, she said. I'm starting a little support group. I want you to come share your story. I'll bring cookies. I hesitated. Telling my story on YouTube, well, y'all, felt one way. Sitting in front of real elders, whose faces I could see, whose pain I could touch, that was something else. But then I thought of all the nights I'd sat alone in room 12B, thinking I was the only fool in Georgia who'd signed something she shouldn't have. All right, I said finally. I'll come. The following Thursday, I walked back into Riverdale Oaks for the first time since I had moved out. The lobby smelled exactly the same, like Lysol and instant coffee. Some of the faces were new. Some of the same ones they used to holler, play it tell, when they saw me coming with trays. Tasha had commandeered the small TV lounge. There was a pot of coffee, a tray of store-bought cookies, and a little handwritten sign taped to the door. Second Chance Circle, seniors only, no judgment, lots of tea. There were 6 women and 2 men sitting in a circle of mismatched chairs. Ida was there, of course, holding court like she owned the place. "Look who finally decided to show up," she said when she saw me, Mrs. Landlord herself. Everyone clapped politely. Tasha clapped her hands. "All right, y'all. This is Miss Lillian. Some of you remember her from her world-famous fried chicken. She's gonna start us off." For a second, my throat closed. All those eyes on me. Tired eyes, hopeful eyes that had seen more years than I had. "Hey, everybody," I said, voice coming out a little shaky. "I'm Lillian, and I trusted my son more than I trusted myself, and I signed my house away." I told them the short version: the loan, the foreclosure, the tiny room, the plate sales, the tax liens. I told them about Marcus on my porch with his past due notice and his pride in pieces. When I finished, the room was quiet, except for the hum of the vending machine. Then one of the men, a tall feller in a Braves cap, cleared his throat. "My name's Calvin. My granddaughter wants me to co-sign a car loan. Says she can't get to work without it. Says if I don't help her, she'll lose her job." He looked down at his hands. "I love that girl, but I'm on the fixed income. If that car gets repossessed, they'll come after my check. Y'all ever been so scared to say no that you want to say yes just to get it over with?" Heads nodded around the circle. Another woman, Mrs. Bernice, spoke up. "My youngest boy has been living with me 6 months. He 29, too old to be calling his mama roommate. Every time I ask about rent, he says he between gigs. Last week he brought me papers about putting the house in his name for tax reasons." "It's never for your taxes," Ida muttered. We spent the next hour trading stories, warnings, advice. When they had sent some pamphlets on elder financial abuse, and I passed them around. "Rule number 1, I said, tapped in the paper. "Don't sign nothing you don't understand. Rule number 2, if they get mad because you ask questions, that's your sign right there." By the time we wrapped up, Tasha's cookies were gone, and so were some of the scared looks. "Miss Lillian," Gottman said, "would you maybe mind coming back next month? I think more folks would come if they knew you'd be here." I thought about my porch swing, the quiet evenings I grow used to. Then I thought about my name on that deed and how hard I fought to put it there. "Yeah, I'll come back, but only if I had to mix her a peach cobbler next time. These store-bought cookies taste like cardboard." Ada threw a napkin at me. The whole room laughed. And just like that, the second gen circle was born.
2 months later, Marcus called me from a number I didn't recognize. I let it go to voicemail. Old habits die hard. When I finally listened, his voice was small. "Hey, Mama, it's me. I hurt my back at the warehouse. Nothing too crazy, but I'm on light duty. They might cut my hours. Jenna picked up a second job at the grocery store, but things are tight. I'm not asking for money. I swear I'm not. I don't know. I guess I wanted to tell you I'm still trying." I stared at the wall for a long time. Ida, who happened to be over helping me repot a plant, raised an eyebrow. "Don't you dare feel bad," she said. "God gave that boy a back brace and a wake-up call. That ain't on you." "I know," I said, "but she's still my child." "Mm-hmm," she answered, "and you're still the child of God. He didn't raise you to be nobody's permanent bailout fund." Still, that night I lay awake
thinking about Marcus stacking boxes with a bad back. I thought about the way he'd looked on my porch, broken, but not quite humbled yet. The next day, I called Renee. Hypothetically, I said, what happens if the owner of a rental property decides to lower the rent for a while? She chuckled. Hypothetically, the owner can do whatever she wants with her own property as long as it's legal and in writing. I sighed. You're thinking about your son? She asked. Maybe, I admitted. Miss Lillian, you've already gone above and beyond. You help him move. You gave him the deposit money. You helped him get that job. You don't have to adjust his life every time he stumbles. I know, I said, but I also know what it's like to feel like every bill is a mountain. Maybe if the rent was a little hell for a while. Renee was quiet for a moment. All right, she said. Here's my lawyer answer. If you want to give them a temporary rent deduction, put it in a written addendum. 6 months, clear start and end dates, and language saying it's a one-time accommodation. No promises for the future. And your non-lawyer answer? I asked. My non-lawyer answered. She sighed. Being the better person sucks sometimes, but it does help you sleep. That weekend, I met Marcus and Jenna at the townhome. The place looked lived in. Cheap furniture, fewer gadgets, no designer purses on display. Cody had taped his school awards to the fridge like it was a trophy case. I handed Marcus a piece of paper. I talked to my lawyer, I said. Here's a temporary rent reduction. 6 months only. After that, it goes back up. No late payments, no I'll pay you next week. You mess this up, it goes away. His eyes filled with tears. Mama, I'm not doing this so you could feel better. I cut in. I'm doing this so Cody doesn't have to watch y'all bounce apartments every year. Don't make me regret it. He nodded so hard his neck might have snapped. I won't, he said. I swear I won't. Jenna, standing just behind him, whispered, Thank you, Miss Lillian. I picked up an overnight shift. We'll make it work, I promise. I looked at her for a long moment. You still going to therapy? Yes, ma'am. Every Tuesday. We're working on a lot. Good. Because money problems you can fix with budgeting and time. Character problems, that takes work. She gave a tiny, shaky smile. I know. I'm trying. For the first time since that terrible day on my old sidewalk, I believed her just a little.
The following summer, Cody came to stay with me for a month while his parents juggled their schedules. Think you can handle a 15-year-old under your roof? Marcus had asked. Baby, I raised you in this house, I replied. I can handle one lanky teenager. Having Cody around turned my quiet little bungalow back into a home. He trumped in from the bus stop every afternoon, dropping his backpack in the hallway, just like his daddy used to do. He ate half my pantry in a week. He left his socks everywhere. But he also mowed the lawn without me asking. He helped me carry flower buckets when I had big catering gigs. He listened when I talked, really listened, not just nodding while scrolling his phone. One night, after we'd eaten too much pizza and were sitting on the porch watching lightning bugs, he asked, Grandma, are you mad at Dad all the time?
The way he said it, careful, like stepping on broken glass, broke my heart a little. Sometimes, I said honestly, sometimes I'm furious. Sometimes I remember him as a sweet little boy who promised he'd buy me a Cadillac one day. Sometimes I want to hug him and slap him in the sand knitted. He laughed. So you don't hate him? No. Hate is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to get sick. I don't hate your daddy. I hate what he did. That's different. He was quiet for a second. I was mad at you, he admitted. At me? I almost choked on my sweet tea. What'd I do to you both? When you left, Mom and Dad told me you moved out because you wanted your own space. Then I found out what really happened. I thought, why didn't you fight harder? Why didn't you call the cops on them? Why didn't you make them let you stay? I sighed. Baby, I was tired. Grief tired, broke tired, heart tired. Sometimes survival looks like going along in the moment and fighting later when you can breathe again. He nodded slowly. I get that now, he said. But by then I had just thought, Grandma left. I reached over and squeezed his knee. I'm sorry you felt that, baby. If I could go back and drag you out of that house with me, I would have. I should have made sure you knew the truth sooner. That's only. He blinked fast like he was trying not to cry. I'm glad you're here now. I like it better when we come to your house than when we go to Mom's old fancy friends' houses. They always talk in whispers. Whispers are where the real gospel lives. Don't let them fool you. He laughed again, then grew serious. Grandma, yeah? When I'm grown, if I ever try to make you or my parents sign something they don't understand, I want you to smack me upside the head. I'll do you one better. I'll haunt you from beyond the grave. He grinned. I believe you, he said. One Thursday afternoon, about a year after I'd bought my house back, a shiny black SUV rolled down Cedar Hill Drive and stopped in front of my place. A man in a crisp blue suit stepped out, sunglasses on, tablet in hand. He looked like every real estate agent I'd ever seen on those bus bitch ads. He walked right up to my porch. Good afternoon, Mom, he said. You Lillian Horace? Depends who's asking, I replied, not moving from a rocking chair. He smiled like he practiced in the mirror. Name's Travis Quinn. I'm with Cedar Hill Redevelopment Group. We've been buying properties in this neighborhood, fixing 'em up, bringing in new amenities, increasing values. I wanted to talk to you about a cash offer on your home. He handed me a glossy brochure. The picture showed fancy coffee shops, young couples with dogs, kids on scooters. Not a single old person in sight. I'm not selling, I said, handing it back. Have a blessed day. He understood my hesitation. He said smoothly, but we're talking well above market value. You could walk away with a nice nest egg. Maybe move into one of our new senior condos. No yard work, no repairs, no property taxes. I said I'm not selling. I repeated. He pushed his sunglasses up on his head, eyes narrowing just a bit. Ma'am, I don't think you understand how much money we're talking about. This neighborhood is changing. If you don't sell now, you might miss your chance.
I stood up, slow. My knees popped, but I still had a couple inches on him with my slippers on. Son, I said, I have already sold this house once in my life in a way I didn't understand. It took me years and a whole lot of tears to get it back. There is no dollar amount you can say that'll make me hand you these keys. He blinked. If you change your mind, I won't. I could in, but you can leave your card. I know some folks might want to rent storefronts to whatever fancy coffee shop you're bringing in. I got a catering business that does pretty well at corporate events. He hesitated, then actually smiled for real this time. You're tougher than you look, Miss Harris. He pulled a card from his wallet. If you ever want to talk about commercial catering, call me. I tucked the card in my pocket. After he left, Marcus showed up as if the universe had decided to test me twice in one day. Mom, you're not seriously thinking about selling, are you? He asked before he even fully stepped inside. I saw that Quim guy down the street. He's been buying up half of the neighborhood. They're putting in a Whole Foods on the corner. You could make bank. First of all, I said, you don't get to say bank around me without my blood pressure spiking. Second of all, no, I'm not selling this house, not to him, not to anybody. He threw his hands up. Mom, think about it. You're getting older. Roofs leak, pipes burst. What if you get sick? Wouldn't it be better to have cash in the bank and not have to worry about repairs? I crossed my arms. You know what I worry about? Waking up in a building where some manager decides I'm too much trouble and hands me an eviction notice. Living somewhere my grandkids has to sign in at the front desk. I worry about losing the one place on this earth that ever really felt like mine. He opened his mouth, then closed it. This house is my security, I said. Now whatever number they put on a check, I can always find a plumber. I can find another front porch with 40 years of memories in the wood. He looked around like he was really seeing the place for the first time in years. The pictures on the walls, the little nicks on the door frame where I'd marked his height as he grew. The dent in the baseboard where he crashed his toy truck when he was 4. I didn't think about it like that, he murmured. I know you didn't. That's why you lost it the first time. He flinched, but he denied it. Okay, Mom, he said, finally, if you're sure. I've never been more sure of anything in my life, I answered.
A few weeks later, Tahisha called again. Miss Lillian, you might want to sit down for this one, she said. I am sitting, I replied. My knees don't do standing and talking anymore. She laughed. You know that little community radio station, WCHR? She asked. They're doing a series on elder scams and housing. I told them about our second chance circle, and they want to interview you. On the radio? I squeaked. Live? Pre-recorded, she said quickly. You can mess up and say, let me start that over, and they'll cut it. But they want your story. People need to hear it. I thought about it. My story had already reached strangers in a lot of ways I never expected. The radio felt different, local, personal. All right, I said, but if they try to make me cry on air, I'm walking out. The host, a woman named Dina, met me at the station a week later. The studio was smaller than I expected, just a room with foam on the walls, 2 microphones, and a big window into the engineer's booth. I'm a huge fan of your plate sale, she said as we sat down. My aunt lives at Riverdale Oaks. She says your mac and cheese changed her life. I laughed, nerves easing a little. They clipped a microphone to my shirt and put big headphones over my hair. When the red on-air light blinked on, my heart raced. Today on WCHR Community Voices, we're talking with Miss Lillian Harris, a Sear Hill resident who went from being kicked out of her own home to becoming a landlord and advocate for seniors. Miss Lillian, thank you for being here. Thank you for having me, I said, hoping my voice didn't tremble. We talked for almost an hour about the loan, about the eviction, about Riverdale Oaks and the Second Chance Circle, about tax liens and how regular folks could get educated before they signed anything. Then Dina asked, "What would you say to someone listening right now who feels trapped? Maybe their kids are pressuring them to put a house in their name, or they're scared they'll be homeless if they say no." I thought of all the faces in our circle, of Calvin and his granddaughter, of this Burmese and her roommate son, of my own shaking hands in that bank office years ago. I tell them this, I said slowly. Your signature is sacred. It's your voice on paper. If somebody you love is asking you to put your name on something that makes your stomach hurt, that's your spirit telling you no. Listen to it. I took a breath. And I'd say, you are not responsible for fixing grown people's bad decisions. Not your kids, not your grandkids, nobody. Helping is one thing. Being used is another. The people who truly love you will love you even when you tell them no. Behind the glass, I saw the engineer wipe his eyes. After the show aired, the station's phone lines lit up. Seniors called in with their own stories. A few days later, Renee told me the legal clinic had gotten triple their usual number of appointments. You're starting a movement, Miss Lillian. You ready for that? I snorted. I'm starting dinner. If the movement wants a plate, they can bring Tupperware. A few weeks later, Tasha called again. "Miss Lillian, you might want to sit down for this one," she said. "I am sitting," I replied. "My knees don't do standing and talking anymore." She laughed. "You know that little community radio station, WCHR?" she asked. "They're doing a series on elder scams and housing." I told them about our Second Chance Circle, and they want to interview you. "On the radio?" I squeaked. "Live?" "Pre-recorded," she said quickly. "You can mess up and say, 'Let me start that over,' and they'll cut it. But they want your story. People need to hear it." I thought about it. My story had already reached strangers in a lot of ways I never expected. But radio felt different, local, personal. "All right," I said. "But if they try to make me cry on air, I'm walking out." The host, a woman named Dina, met me at the station a week later. The studio was smaller than I expected. Just a room with foam on the walls, 2 microphones, and a big window into the engineer's booth. "I'm a huge fan of your plate sale," she said as we sat down. "My aunt lives at Riverdale Oaks. She says your mac and cheese changed her life." I laughed, nerves easing a little. They clipped a microphone to my shirt and put big headphones over my hair. When the red on-air light went on, my heart raced. Today on WCHR Community Voices, we're talking with Miss Lillian Harris, a Cedar Hill resident who went from being kicked out of her own home to becoming a landlord and advocate for seniors. Miss Lillian, thank you for being here. Thank you for having me. I hoped my voice didn't tremble. We talked for almost an hour about the loan, about the eviction, about Riverdale Oaks and the Second Chance Circle, about tax liens and how regular folks get educated before they signed anything. Then Dina asked, what would you say to someone listening right now who feels trapped? Maybe their kids are pressuring them to put a house in their name, or they're scared they'll be homeless if they say no. I thought of all the faces in our circle, of Calman and his granddaughter, of Miss Bernice and her roommate son, of my own shaking hands in that Bath office years ago. I'd tell them this. Your signature is sacred. It's your voice on paper. If somebody you love is asking you to put your name on something that makes your stomach hurt, that's your spirit telling you no. Listen to it. And I'd say you are not responsible for fixing grown people's bad decisions. Not your kids, not your grandkids, nobody. Helping is one thing. Being used is another. The people who truly love you will love you even when you tell them no. Behind the glass, I saw the engineer wipe his eyes. After the show aired, the station's phone lines lit up. Seniors called in with their own stories. A few days later, Renee told me a legal clinic had gotten triple their usual number of appointments. You're starting a movement, Miss Lillian. You ready for that? I snorted. I'm starting dinner. If the movement wants a plate, they can bring Tupperware.